I wanted to make a boat that demonstrated Archimedes' principle and was made through the process of aluminum casting. To do this, I desired to design a forge that would be able to melt aluminum using charcoal, and then a series of molds out of plaster around a 3D printed object, which the 3D printed object could be removed and then the aluminum poured into the resulting cavity. Now, I didn't fully succeed in producing this project. Here is the current status of the forge. As you can see, it is armed and works relatively well. Here's the crucible inside of it. However, I didn't progress as far with the molds. Though I made a series of molds, they each had their own issues. Here is the furthest along mold that I had. This one, unlike the mold I was originally planning on producing, is made out of clay, not plaster. This is because the plaster was far too weak for what I was expecting and was much too expensive. The clay performed very well. If you could see inside here, where the plastic has been removed, it has left detail so fine that you can still see the surface layers of the 3D printed object that was once inside. However, my idea of using PLA and melting it out of the mold ultimately failed. The PLA is far too viscous and does not flow even at elevated temperatures. And at these temperatures, the clay begins to shrink down, and this causes it to crack, making the mold worthless. After this, I researched in, and with this mold was somewhat successful in using ABS, another type of 3D printing filament, and dissolving it in acetone. However, ABS is not fully soluble in acetone. So while it worked very well on an open, exposed part like the funnel, deep inside of the ship, there are still parts of plastic that are left. So if aluminum was poured in right now, the result would be less than pleasing. I enjoyed this project overall. I thought that it was interesting to spend time looking at manufacturing and how we can use this to create our own products, as well as to understand how the products around us have been created and how this should influence our designs. However, I didn't particularly enjoy the focus on a STEM principle. I felt like that limited the scale of the project and the focus and caused me to spend more time thinking about Archimedes' principle, of which I'm not super interested, and less time focusing on how forging and casting works and studying deep into that process, which would be beneficial to me as a mechanical engineer. In the future, I want to continue along with this project. Even last week, I finished making the lid, which fits on rather snugly. And I had my friend 3D print a new mold. This mold comes in two parts, and so it is available for sand casting, in which sand is packed around both ones. They're put together to form the complete mold and then removed so that the cavity is formed. Though I didn't have that as my original design, I hope that will be able to produce good results in the future.